too, in case some of you guys are looking for money. Wow. I know Walt's is looking for money too. You want to come up there and talk? Okay, so there's a mic there. You want that?
Having spent, excuse me, for my voice, I'm in the middle of a treatment, and it'll be better next week, I hope. I had 42 years with GE. You might sound, why am I here? Well, I was one of the first venture managers in GE. So even in a big company, I had invented some membranes, and they let me start a business with those membranes. The first year, we did $40,000. In 4 years, we were up to $7.5 million, and I parlayed that into running a $50 million silicone products business, and parlayed that into a $1.6 billion medical systems business. So even in a company, there are needs for venture managers. When I retired in '92, I sold all my GE stock and invested in 10 startups. 5 went public, 1 got acquired, 1 went bankrupt, and I left 3 that are still hoping to cash out. That was a great decade. I made so much money, I could buy a hockey team. And in 2000, I invested it in 10 different companies. So I've had experience with over 20 startup companies. There has not been 1 cash out since 2000. So I'm out of money right now. But I have seen every mistake there is to make. And I will only mention 1 here. And that has to do with patents. Don't think because you get a patent, that's the end of your troubles. Too many startups don't look into the files and see what all the other patents that have been filed, and now they're published even before they issue. So look at what you're going to be competing with. I have had 2 companies go bankrupt because big companies killed them because their patents weren't strong enough to fight against the money of the big companies. So get yourself a smart patent lawyer as one of the first things you do. I'll wait for the next session.
Thank you, Walt. As you can tell, we have a lot of ground to cover here today. Our next speaker is going to be Ashok Sood. Dr. Ashok Sood is President, Chief Executive Officer, and Director of Magnolia Solar. He is a 30-year industry veteran with experience that includes developing and managing solar cells, optical and optoelectronics technology products for several major corporations, including Lockheed Martin, BAE Systems, L'Oreal, Honeywell, and Tyco International. Ashok was instrumental in the development and managed optical and optoelectronics technology for these companies as a manager in the optoelectronics group, and worked to develop ribbon silicon solar cells, cadmium telluride, cadmium sulfide, mercury cad telluride, and all the other 4 or 5 letter names you can think about, semiconductor devices. Ashok has led the efforts resulting in DARPA sponsorship of several projects. He has also led various industry and university teams bridging centers of excellence for material sciences across the U.S. He received his PhD and MS in engineering from the University of Pennsylvania and has an MS and BS in physics from Delhi University in India. I do also want to say that Ashok and his company Magnolia Solar were one of the first incubator companies that actually moved into our location here at CNSC. Sure.
Thanks, Pradeep. Good afternoon. I guess looking at my bio, you see I don't know anything really. Basically, know a little bit about everything. I've been in this business long enough to know, and all the mistakes you can make, I've done them all. So that's been a good learning experience. But I'm learning every day. To me, my motto is every morning you wake up, thank the Lord, and it's a good day to go have fun. So that's kind of how I do business. Now let's talk about a little bit about, so Magnolia Solar is our second company. First company that we started is Magnolia Optical Technology, which we started after I left Lockheed and BAE, whatever I was working for. And that is still a private company. We spun off the solar piece of the business out of that 2 years ago. And with our luck, I think as one of our panelists mentioned, don't go looking for money when the market is really down. Well, we managed to do that very effectively. So we went looking for money in 2009 to raise money for solar, even though it's an exciting area and so forth. There wasn't any money to be had. And a very bright attorney told me, young man told me, that you should go through something called reverse merger. I had no idea what that meant. So we can talk about that later on. But it has worked out for us pretty well. And thanks to Pradeep's help, and thanks to the help from NYSERDA, Jen Harvey, who's in the audience. She's our program director, and she's been very, very helpful to us. And we've been very fortunate to get money from my years of experience with the Department of Defense and NASA. So we are basically developing next generation of thin film solar cells, which involve nanostructure. I mean, I'm not going to get into the technical stuff here at all. Our business plan really is to develop solar cells, so which are eventually get to less than $1 a watt, and also be on a low-cost substrate, which brings its own set of technologies and issues. In addition, one of the things we are working on is very, very high-efficiency solar cells for the defense application. You hear about drones that are going in the harm's way. They need some very, very high-efficiency solar cells in the order of 40 to 50%. And for our soldiers who go in the harm's way, something that can be a flexible panel. So our technology that we are developing is for flexible solar cells. And for the military piece, it has to be very high efficiency, and we are funded from the NASA's and the Department of Defense. We're waiting for the continuing resolution to end so we can get our new contracts. That's another issue. So, but from the technology that we are developing for solar cell for the commercial applications is we are very thankful to NYSERDA for their vision and their support to us. One of the commitments that we have made to the state of New York is that we'll be setting up our pilot facility in Albany region. We are very excited about that because Albany Nanotech has a fabulous facility, and Pradeep and the team has been wonderful to work with. We have very close collaboration with our PI, Fred Schubert, who is on our team and on our advisory board as well. So I'll say that this is an exciting ride, and we are having a lot of fun. And our stock is traded on over the counter. The stock symbol is MGLT, Mary George Larry Thomas. And we are learning as go along. And we also do write press releases, lots of press releases. But one thing that I have said is our press releases will have substance. We don't write press releases for the sake of writing press releases. Our investors keep telling us we should write lots of press releases, but we tell them no, it has to say something useful. Otherwise, it's not worth, because it costs a lot of money to write press releases with the 8K and the SECs and so forth. And we are learning on this process, so we are very excited about this opportunity. Our goal is to grow it into a real business and set up a facility here, and then grow from there. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Ashok. So I think that was all the panelists that we had. I'd like to invite them to come and sit up front over here. And just like me, I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of questions for the panelists. Okay, now what I'd also suggest that we do is, when we ask questions, at least for the panelists, what I want them to do is talk into the mic, because we're recording the event as well, and we're going to have it up on the website. So going to try to run back and forth and try to put the mic, give the mic to the panelists. Do we have any quick off the top questions, really quick, before I get it started? Okay. While you guys are still thinking.
We got one there.
We do have one there? Okay, go ahead.
Being in the educational space, I am looking to STEM initiatives with primarily pre-K through 5, 5th grade students, because a lot of our focus has been on middle school and high school level STEM. Well, at that point, I think their natural curiosity for math, science, engineering, and technology is past. And what would your suggestions be for somebody that's in that space as far as an educator perspective? And I'll put that out to anybody who wants to answer it. Let them play in the dirt, right?
I'm just going to touch on this because as I was driving here, I got a voicemail from a 3rd grade student in a school in Georgia, and then it was very perplexing because it said, "Please call us back." And then the teacher got on and said, "Hi, we're calling you. Our students are so fascinated with what you're doing. Can you please call us back?" And I do think finding examples of sticky concepts that they can play with, whether it's mushrooms or something with the sunlight, and yeah, I mean, hands-on. But I also agree with that. That's a stage where kids still think it's cool to do math and science, so even if you tell them it's math and science.
No, we don't tell them, we sneak it in, but then...
Yeah. I think it's safe to tell them at that age. You just don't tell them they're 5th graders.
Great, thank you.
Well, I'll quickly add that here at the college, we do have a lot of activities that are geared towards K through 12 training, education. We in fact just announced just this past week that we kicked off our what we call the Nano Career Day event and the Nano at the Mall kind of stuff. And a lot of them are the hands-on type activities. I mean, we get the kids to come in and look at solar panels, for example, as well as hydrogen vehicles, and they get very, very excited about those. So the hands-on experience is obviously, and I welcome you to reach out to one of us. We do a lot of education outreach programs, and we can tailor-make some of those for you as well. So, any other questions? One more hand up there. Okay. So the question I have is, if you were in the same spot as you were 5 years ago, what would you do differently based on all the learning that you're telling us that you had as a CEO? Anybody want to address that?
If you mean in the same spot with the same company as you were 5 years ago, I guess what I do differently is go do something else. Because one of the things you know when you get in a startup, you develop this vision of where you want to end up, and in doing that, you also you start to think about what the path to that is. Now, the path is never the one that you think it's going to be, but you always hang on to that vision. And I think it's really important in a startup company that you think about, the progress that you can make. What progress are you going to make this year? What progress are you going to make this quarter? What progress are you going to make this week? And actually, it's not bad to think every day, what am I going to do today that's going to help my company take one more step towards what that vision is?
I guess I'll make 2 comments. One is you remind me of the definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for different results. And one of the things you do need to do, as Mike was expressing, was have a vision of where you're trying to get to, and don't have that just be a grand vision. Have that be in small steps. And if you're not getting to those, if you're not accomplishing those small steps, then try something different, because what you're doing is not working. And you need to be constantly alert to that. And you'll certainly get market feedback, because the market won't be coming to you. But you also need to have your own feedback, because, I remember I was in a company a number of years ago, and it probably took me about 3 years to recognize I was beating my head against the wall, and the only thing that was happening was the wall was getting bloody. It wasn't changing, it wasn't moving. And I realized the thing that had to happen was I had to move. So keep conscious of your yardsticks and measuring points. And it shouldn't take 5 years, it shouldn't take 2 years, but it often does regrettably. But be alert.